If there's one thing that I took away from this episode of Raw is that, to an extent and to a certain degree, this show alone made me interested into watching WrestleMania this Sunday on pay-per-view. And you'll see what I mean on this review for WWE Monday Night Raw. So the way this episode of Monday Night Raw started off was with The Undertaker coming out, and he cut a pretty good promo, I thought. It was one of the better promos that The Undertaker has cut throughout this entire feud going into WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar. And the funny thing is that there's a big logic fail. While he was cutting this promo, he mentioned that he's defeated 21 guys in his entire career, his 21-0 streak, and I'm like, okay, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Kane, 3 guys that he defeated a couple of times at WrestleMania, counts as one person or 2 people. I'm like, whoa. Step back. Think about what you're saying sometimes. So I thought that was a little off kilter, with that part of the promo, but it was one of those things where you kind of just suspend your disbelief on, and you just go along with The Undertaker as he's talking. And he goes on to talk about Brock Lesnar and how he wants to go into the deep water with them. And either he's going to go down with The Undertaker or he's going to swim to shore. And then he goes on to say that my time will come. It's inevitable that the streak will be broken, but there's 3 things that you can't get away from: death, taxes, big comedic moment right there, huh? And the streak. I thought that was funny when when The Undertaker said taxes. I'm like, well, that was a little surprising. Coming from, of all people, The Undertaker, who's not one to talk about things, about normal people's situations. He's a mystical kind of character, so it was funny for him to say something like taxes. and then Lesnar come out, and Brock Lesnar comes out. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came out, and Paul Heyman said that that Brock Lesnar will defeat The Undertaker, and he said, "This is not a prediction, that is a spoiler." And you had Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman walk down the ramp, and Brock Lesnar's teasing it. He's wanting to fight The Undertaker, but he steps back. He does it again. And then you have Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar on both ends of the ring, and then Paul Heyman distracts The Undertaker. Brock Lesnar comes in. He tries to fight it off. Undertaker gets one up on him until Brock Lesnar hits the clothesline and nails the F5. And I thought Undertaker selling the F5 was actually pretty good. He sold it like a trooper. He wasn't stiff when the way he sold Brock Lesnar's F5. And this was much needed for Brock Lesnar, because going into this match, this was a very one-sided affair when you had The Undertaker just basically squashing Brock Lesnar week after week. So this was much needed for Brock Lesnar. And at least he's looking imposing to a certain degree to go over in this segment with The Undertaker. It kept it short, simple, and logical as well. So overall, this was actually a pretty good way, I thought, to kick off the go-home show 6 days before WrestleMania. And then we get to a match between Big E versus Alberto Del Rio. And I thought this was a non-title match, and I thought this was actually a really good, solid wrestling match. And I thought overall this was the wrestling match of the night, and which explains a lot because later on this review, when I get to the very end, I'm going to give my thoughts on the overall side of this episode. So I thought this was a really good, solid wrestling match between Alberto Del Rio and Big E. And based off what happened with Christian, he's out with a concussion. I hope he does come back in the Battle Royal. And to me, I hope that the WWE realizes that every title, no matter what it is, should be defended on the show. Even though I'm going to harp on the Divas title later on this review, I think that if they took out Big E and Alberto Del Rio out of this 30-man Battle Royal and put them in a title match at WrestleMania, I think those two could actually deliver an Intercontinental Championship WrestleMania type of feel, kind of mid-Carter match. I think Alberto Del Rio coming off of this match looks strong as a credible contender for Big E Langston's championship, even though this would be Del Rio jobbing to Big E. This will be a good way to establish Big E as that top babyface Intercontinental Champion. Moving on, we get to see a Bray Wyatt and Wyatt family promo. And Bray Wyatt talks about changing the world, and he also said that Cena will be forgotten, and then you're going to be left with nothing. And he wants to make a monster out of John Cena, and Bray Wyatt, absolutely spot on in his promos. He never disappoints when he's cutting his promos. And later on, we saw Bray Wyatt versus R-Truth, and this was a good way to establish Bray Wyatt as that strong guy. I thought he squashed R-Truth very well in this match. It was a bit of a longer match than he normally has when you have a jobber jumping to Bray Wyatt, so I thought R-Truth as well sold his side of the story very well, I thought. And what happened was that after the match, after Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family were in the ring and the lights were dimming on them, coming from behind them was a figure with a sheet mask on and dark blue overalls, and he's looking at Luke Harper. And Harper's wide-eyed look, and he looks to Eric Rowan, and they go back and forth a bit. And and this was one of the great things that happened on the show. This was, to me, one of the highlights of the show. And then he takes out the mask, and we all knew who it was. It was John Cena. And he flat out destroys the Wyatt family, and he's standing tall in the ring. And it was one of those things where, even though it was predictable to an extent, I was actually surprised of John Cena doing something like this. The little things matter. I loved that he used the overalls and the sheet mask to play mind games with Bray Wyatt, and it also caught Bray Wyatt off guard, and it also makes you question if Bray Wyatt's going to beat John Cena or not. And based off of this segment, planting that seed of doubt, it almost makes me believe that Bray Wyatt will beat John Cena at WrestleMania. And then later on, we saw the backstage segment where John Cena talks about that he will be a monster for a day and that he will beat Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Also on the show, we saw Summer Rae versus Natalya, and this was bad on all levels. Even though the wrestling of this match was going so well, it ended very weak and made Natalya look like crap. It made the Divas division as well look like crap, because Natalya is one of those very underrated wrestlers that really deserves the spotlight in the sun and have that Divas title and run with it and help the younger divas on the roster to become like her, become the wrestlers that they should be on the show. Instead, they put Natalya and Summer Rae in a match where it was only a few minutes long, and the way it was finished as well, where you had Summer Rae kick Natalya on the apron, and that was, to me, one of the most weakest finishes to a Divas match I've ever seen. Need I say more? And then you have, to me, what I thought was the segment of the show. You have the Authority came out, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. And this is where Triple H just flat out spoke the truth. He said that that there's going to be a farewell to the Yes Movement, and then he goes on to talk about facades and how people latch on to things and then they just let go, and they use Fandango as an example, because after WrestleMania last year, and then you had the show on Raw the night after in Boston, and there were da 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 for like a couple of months, and then it was just let go. And Triple H used the video package as well, and I love how he just buried every single guy that he came across, like Booker T, Rob Van Dam, even others that he faced in the past, and he just made himself look like even more like a god. And like I said, this was Triple H speaking the truth, and he was just flat out gold. Both of them, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, were gold in this promo. And you had Stephanie McMahon pretty much pandering to the audience with the whole yes chants, and she said it doesn't take that much to get the fans going. So this was basically Stephanie McMahon telling the fans that they are sheep and that they do fall for anything, and when they leech onto something, they don't let go until they do let go. And it's all basically a facade. They were all going on about flavor of the month, blah 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 blah. And this was, like I said, pure greatness on the part of Triple H and Stephanie. And then you had Batista coming out after, and he cuts his promo. And he goes on to say that there's a reason why I wasn't in that video package, Triple H, is because you have never beaten me. And Triple H said, well, you should focus on your match tonight because I'm making it no disqualification. And you had Randy Orton come out and said that he will beat the respect out of Batista at the WrestleMania pay-per-view event, and basically sucking up to the Authority. And asked Triple H to reconsider to be involved in the match. And Triple H says, where's the Viper? Where's the guy that was around years ago when you were the Viper? And he was doing the same thing with Batista in the main event, motivating Batista and saying, where's the animal, stuff like that. And I'm wondering why Triple H is motivating both of these guys. Maybe this is Triple H's backup plan in case if he loses, and if Daniel Bryan goes over Triple H, Triple H has done his job to make Randy Orton and Batista feel like that they should, be the people that they are, and just destroy Daniel Bryan. And when it comes down to the both of them, whatever happens there. So overall, I thought, like I said, this was a really good promo from Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and then you had Batista coming out and Randy Orton. And basically what this accomplished was that it gave the main event at least some meaning, making it no disqualification, because in triple threat matches, the stipulation is there. It's no disqualification through and through. So we know that at WrestleMania it will be a triple threat match anyway. But will it be Triple H versus Randy Orton versus Batista, or will it be Daniel Bryan versus Orton and Batista? You will know in my prediction video, which I will get to this week. Also, we saw the Usos teaming up with the Los Matadors versus the Real Americans in Ryback. And even though I would rather see Cody Rhodes and Goldust be involved in this four-way match, you could take Los Matadors out, put them as filler guys in the 30-man Battle Royal. That I would have rather seen. But overall, this was an okay match. It was a solid match. I will give it that. And what happened was that you had close to the few minutes. At the end of the match, you had one of the Usos fly out and dive on his opponent. And then you had one of the Los Matadors fly out, land on one of their opponents. And then you had at the end, the blatant switch from Los Matadores, Shades of the Killer Bees. I done my research. And I thought, like I said, this was just an okay match. And another okay match followed up on that. It was Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus Fandango and Damien Sandow. And this, like I said, this was an okay match. Nothing really special, nothing out of the ordinary. And going back to that 8-man tag team match, you want to know why I would have rather seen the Usos have that moment in the sun, competing with the New Age Outlaws to, get the titles there, and you have this match on the pre-show at WrestleMania? Wow. Oh my God, WWE. Something bad. Terrible, terrible booking. I mean, here's the thing. Why would you want to have what looks like a potential cluster match in a Divas Invitational on the actual show than a tag team championship match that could potentially be a good match? Why? It just baffles my mind who decided to book this WrestleMania card. Horrible. And with that being said, you had AJ Lee versus Naomi in the Lumberjill match. And like I said, this was one big cluster. Nothing fancy, nothing special, nothing that remotely was interesting out of this match. And this was basically another example of the WWE burying AJ Lee and have Naomi go over. I can understand, you want to have, someone as your new Divas champion. There's that idea of throwing in Naomi as the Divas champion. You might as well have Tamina, Natalya, anyone. Here's the thing. I would rather see Eva Marie as the Divas champion than AJ Lee right now, and that is saying a whole lot. Whew. And then you had Roman Reigns versus Kane, and this was based off the poll who was going to face Kane at on tonight's show. I knew it was going to be Roman Reigns because it's big guy versus big guy. And this was one of those predictable moments where you had Roman Reigns. He was about to deliver the Superman punch to Kane. Out comes the Outlaws to distract Roman Reigns, and before they could do anything, the other two members of the Shield, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, come out. They even the odds, and this basically ends with the Shield standing tall, almost powerbombing Kane until the Outlaws save Kane. And like I said, this was one of those predictable moments on the show. It was just okay the way that they done it. Even though they missed out on a good opportunity to bring up the Ascension, I can understand the Outlaws wanting to face the Shield before they decide to split them up, which I hope it does not happen at WrestleMania. I like to see the Shield have a run as the babyface faction. That's what I love to see going forth for at least a few months until it dies down, and then they decide to split up the Shield. That's what I like to see coming out of the Shield, and with this match, gotta go with the Shield. Even though I will do a prediction video later on, this is one of those situations where Kane and the New Age Outlaws are jobbing to the Shield at WrestleMania. And then you have Piper's Pit, and we really don't know who's going to be on the show. And Rowdy Piper is in the ring, and he mentions the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. So, okay, we all know what's coming. And what happened was that he's about to bring out the favorite in this match. And then The Miz interrupts. And I love how Rowdy Piper doesn't even sell the interruption. He just keeps going on and on until the guy comes out and he says, "Really?" And then Miz says, "Really?" And they go back and forth. "Really, really, really?" Miz comes in and he cuts his promo, says that he's going to be the favorite to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Sheamus comes out and he cuts a promo and says he's going to bro kick the Miz at WrestleMania. Titus O'Neil comes out. He cuts his promo on how he's going to eliminate both Sheamus and the Miz. And then you have Dolph Ziggler come out and he got some promo, said that he's going to win the Battle Royal. And then this was basically Roddy Piper just basically starting the fight, and I loved how he done it. He poked his eyes to the Miz, and then all hell breaks loose. All four guys going at it. Tyson O'Neil and Ziggler are going at it. Sheamus and the Miz are going at it, and then out comes the Cavalry, and then Rey Mysterio comes out, and the Big Show comes out, and Big Show cleans house. I thought that was interesting, the part where you had two of the baby faces there, and you had Rey on his knees saying, I'm sorry, don't attack me, please. And Big Show's like, alright. And he goes to go out of the ring. Rey Mysterio 619s him to the gut, and he does something off the top rope. Big Show just flat out destroys Rey, throws him over the top rope on all the people. And this was basically Big Show pretty much week after week after week being the guy that has pretty much been dominant over the past few weeks on Raw. And what's interesting is that the WWE keeps telling us that Big Show is the favorite going into this show, and having Big Show all this momentum going into the Battle Royal kind of actually makes me question now if Big Show is actually going to win this match. Because of all the momentum, because of all the favoritism going into it, it tells me that someone else, like maybe Mark Henry or an Alexander Rusev, may be debuting and making him the guy that stands tall after the 30-man Battle Royal. Who knows yet? But we'll see what happens at WrestleMania with this match. It's not one of those matches where I'm overly crazy about going into WrestleMania, but at least it gives the mid-card guys on the show some time at WrestleMania. That's the one thing I do like going into this match. So there is some interest going into it. And then the main event. It was Randy Orton versus Batista in a no disqualification match. And you had Stephanie McMahon and Triple H coming out for commentary. And Triple H was motivating Batista, saying, "Where's the animal?" And he said, "You want to see the animal? Here's the animal." He spinebusters Randy Orton outside of the ring, and most of the action that was going on in this match was actually outside the ring. And you had a couple of candlesticks, whatever. And what happened was that Daniel Bryan came out. And I'm glad that he did, because last week, I think, even though you can make the argument that Daniel Bryan is selling the beatdown that Triple H gave him, he still should have been on the show in some way, shape, or form. So I like, on this go-home show, that Daniel Bryan got his moment. And the way he came in on screen, beating up Triple H on the announce table, really showing his anger, his frustration to Triple H. And the way he was beating him down made me believe that Daniel Bryan wants to beat Triple H in that moment, in that time. And the fans were just absolutely behind Daniel Bryan, going, yes, yes, yes. It was a good way to really end the show. And then you had Daniel Bryan in the ring, and going at it a bit with Randy Orton and Batista until Daniel Bryan hits the high knee on Batista. And this was a good way to close off your go-home show at WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan getting his moment in the sun, his momentum. And you almost question, is he going to win the WWE Championship if he does beat Triple H? That remains to be seen, and like I said, I will do a prediction video about every single match that's on WrestleMania. And like I said, this was a good way to end off this go-home show. And if you really think about it, if you took away this really good moment feel ending, if you took away the segment with the Authority and the opening of the show, this was really not one of the greatest Raws going into WrestleMania. But when you put all that in, it actually made a decent show And if I were to rate this show out of 10, I would probably give it a 6.5 for effort. The WWE, I will give them credit for putting in the effort into building up WrestleMania upcoming this Sunday. And if you saw this episode of Raw, what did you think? Whatever you thought, comment below and let me know. While you're at it, you can hit that subscribe button just down below this video. You can follow MRB Wrestling on Twitter, and you can like the Make Rock and Bolt Wrestling Review Show on Facebook. And on a final note, to all you viewers watching, get plenty of rest and always do your best.